Alright, so today we're going to take a look at working on our BX2200 Kubota compact tractor, and what we're going to do is replace these turn signals. I've been working the tractor pretty hard this summer and managed to bust these lights off. Actually broke this one probably last year, fixed it with some glue, epoxy, but as you can see, it broke again. So, and this one, same thing, busted it. It's holding on now, so I'm thinking I'll probably just replace both of them. Found these on Amazon, 12 bucks, park turn and warning light. From what I understand is these actually have your kind of like driving lights, parking lights, that I'm going to try to wire in with the parking lights, the driving lights of the tractor. The factory ones just have turn signals, so I'm going to wire it in so we have just the lights that are on, and then they also have the second element in the bulb that is brighter, so you can use that for the turn signal. See, there's two elements in that bulb. This is a new one, and this is the factory. Only has one element. So I have to do some diagnosis on the wiring. Wire it in with the tail lights that are always on. Alright, so what I did was I already took the plastic covering off. That just threads down through the fender, down underneath. Took that off and bent the clip back, the clip under here that kind of contains the wires. Hard to see, but that gives us some more access to the wires and test them, see which ones I want to splice into. Alright, so got my voltmeter here, and let's see, 3/4 inch open end. That'll loosen the nut here. So we'll loosen this and pull the wires out and start testing the wires. Okay, so I loosen the nut here, 3/4 inch wrench, get that loosened up. So I pull the black and the red wire, trace them down underneath, and they're right here. And they were connected to the green and the black. Guessing this is the ground and that's probably the hot for the turn signal. I can check that with the voltmeter then. I'll try to get set up so you can see that. Alright, so I got my voltmeter set up here. What I'm going to do first is check the for continuity. Have it set at 200 ohms. Check for continuity. Basically checking for ground. So it's going down. It's got continuity there. So I'm going to check for the ground wire. Like I said, I'm guessing it's... Alright, that goes to the light. These two go up to the light. These two are from the wiring harness. And guessing this one here, the male plug. Put the one wire connector on there, and I'm going to touch the other one to a known good ground, which I'm assuming the frame bolt here, and it is dropping down to 0 again. So that's the ground wire. I probably will not need that for the new wires, the new lights. The two wires coming out of there for the light bulb, it grounds itself through the nut that holds it to the roll bar. So that's the ground wire. The other one, it's going to be 12 volts, so we're going to switch it to 20, and I'm going to turn the turn signals on with the hazards. And we should be getting 12-volt cycling. So I am seeing spike up and down. So that is the hot side for the turn signals. So we're going to splice into the wire that goes into the green wire, which coming from the lights is the red wire. That's the wire I'm going to cut, and I'm just going to cut the wires and reuse these plugs and just splice these wires into the wires on the new lights. That way we don't have to get new plugs or anything, just reuse these wires with the connectors. That'll make it easy. Probably won't need this. So now we just need to find the wire that's hot from the tail light. And it's going to be one of these two wires. These, the black and the yellow is going to the light. And it looks like there's two blacks coming from the wiring harness. That can be kind of confusing. We'll have to check those. Alright, so I'm going to take a guess here. The yellow light, the yellow wire, I guess it's yellow, as opposed to the black wire coming from the tail light. This yellow or white wire coming from the tail light is probably the hot wire. So that I disconnected up here and checked for 12 volts with the ignition on and the lights turned on. So we got this set for 20 volts. We'll be able to see for 20, not 12. Turn the ignition on. The lights are on. Check here. And we do get 12 volts. Get a better connection. There we go. Good. Close to 12 volts, almost 11. So that'll be the wire. What I'm going to do is, I don't really want to splice into the factory wiring harness. I'd rather splice into the wire going into the tail light. That way, if we ever have any problems, it's a lot cheaper to replace just the tail light rather than a whole wiring harness. So we'll do that. Okay, so trying to figure out which wire does which function, the red and the black wire. And lo and behold, on the back, there's a good explanation. It's grounds through the mounting stud. The red wires for the turn function and the black wires for the park function. So that's everything we need to know. So we're going to wire it up with the black wire to the parking and the red wire to the turn. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut the wires just a little past the stalk here. Cut them here, and then I'm going to reuse the other sides, which have the nice factory connectors. I don't plan on using this, so cut it there, and they don't give you a whole lot of wire, and I'll splice them in, and I'll show you the various methods you can do to splice and how I'm going to do it. Alright. Okay, so here's the old light where I cut it. A good amount of wire left that I'm going to reuse for the new light. So, according to the package, the red wire, well, first off, the light itself is grounded through the base, which the old one was grounded through the black wire, so I don't need to ground it with that. it's going to be grounded through the base. Red wire was, red wire is going to be the turn signal. And the old one only had turn signal, so this will be the turn signal wire, red to red. Splice those together. And in order to get this black wire working for the parking light, I can splice this in. And what I'm going to do is, since we're not using the ground from the wiring harness from factory, I will cut that off, and it has the nice plug disconnector. Cut that off, and I'm going to splice that into the taillight wire on the taillight wire side itself, not the wiring harness. So then that'll be spliced in to the taillight wiring, and then that'll plug in to the new turn signal parking light. Alright. Okay, so there's the length of wire that I cut off from the factory wiring harness. That was feeding the old tail light, the old turn signal light, the ground wire. We're not going to need that because it's grounded to the stalk base. So I can just tape that off. Just ground wire, so it's not too big of a deal. Not going to need that. That's the wire that will be used for the turn signals, the new turn signals. So that's the section that I'm going to splice in the hot taillight side that will power the new turn signal parking light. Alright, so we're going to splice that in there. Show you that in a second. Okay, so I have the wires stripped and spliced together. Just kind of manually twisted right now. And up here as well. Stripped a section, wrap the other piece around, and I'm going to solder these. And I know it takes a little bit more time, but I like to do things right the first time, since this is on the tractor and it's a pretty harsh environment, bouncing and shaking and wet and snow and salt and rain. There's other methods that you can use, such as these quick crimp splice connectors. I've used those in the past, but since this is another one where you can use it for a situation like this. Slide it over the one wire, actually this way. Slide it over the one wire, insert the other wire, and close it. It kind of crimps over the wires, pinches it, which it works somewhat. I don't know. I'm just afraid in this harsh environment with the tractor, the way it's used, the way I use it, that I want more of a permanent connection. So I'm going to solder these, tape them up, solder this, tape it up, and then should be ready to go. Put it back together and test it out. So I'll solder these up and then show you what it looks like. Okay, so there it is, soldered up. I do have some shrink tubing that I'm going to slide down over it and then heat it up, and that'll shrink over top of it. You can use electrical tape too, but for these two joints I'm going to use the shrink tubing. Up here I'm going to have to use electrical tape. So I'm a lot happier with those soldered splices. I know they'll stay together a lot longer than the other just crimped with those crimp pieces. Those tend to fall apart, or sometimes just end up cutting the wires totally. So these I'm a lot happier with. Okay, so we got everything taped up, sealed up, ready to feed down through the bracket, the fender, and then we can hook it up, test it out, and last thing we want to do is tape up that ground that we cut off from the factory wiring harness. Not a big deal, just clean it up, make it nice and clean, and then put all the wires away if everything works. Alright, so let's put it together and I'll be back. Alright, so we got everything hooked back up. The red wires to the green wiring harness. See that there, the red wire, the lights, the green wiring harness, the black wire from the light is into our splice, and hook the taillight back into the taillight wire, and it should be good to go. So turn on the ignition, and there's our parking light. That's on there now. The other side we didn't do yet, so it's not on. That's working. And hazards. There we go. That's working. So now I just gotta do the other side, I guess. That looks pretty good. Fixed. Gotta snap this other cover on. It just snaps on. I did get some LED bulbs I want to try. Maybe I'll test that out here before I cap it off. These are the standard incandescent. Comes with the lights and what was on the tractor purchased. So those are the LED bulbs I picked up. Pretty slick looking. Bright Star, newest. Alright. Should just be a plug and play. Take out the old one. They said they might need a different, this, what is it, relay or flasher. Guess we'll see, maybe not just one, but if I put two in, because of the difference in the current draw. Well, let's check that out. Ooh, that's definitely brighter. Pretty wild. Definitely brighter. Seems to flash all right. Have to see what happens when I replace both of them. Have to get that new flasher maybe. See what it looks like with the parking light on. Yeah, it still works. Not as noticeable. We'll have to see. I do have LED lights in the headlights. They made a huge, huge difference. I highly recommend that. LED lights. Replace the factory incandescents. Just replace the bulbs. Less than 20 bucks each. The LEDs for the turn signals, I think they're about $15 for both of them. So, not too bad. Try it again without the parking light. even without the lens, it's got that amber look. Alright, finish up the other side, do the other same, pretty much the same stuff, and just clean up and tidy up this side. That's about it. Alright, so we're going to switch out the right side now. I'm going to replace this unit here, turn signal, with the one that I put in over here. This one has the taillight and the turn signals in it, so I'll show you how to wire that up. You can see I fixed it. It broke. This comes off way too easy. It's cracked in a number of spots. Use it hard. It's a tractor, but figure replace this side too and put the LED bulb in it. Get them looking the same. So let's get started. Get I believe it's a 3/4 inch open end wrench to loosen that nut and get that taken off. Okay, as luck would have it, I could not find my 3/4 inch open end, so lo and behold, 19mm works just as good. A little sloppy, but it works. So I stole it, didn't put it back. Probably the kid. So get that loosened up. And this side is going to be a little tighter than the other side because of the fuel tank. As you can see, hopefully, there's the fuel tank. And here's a whole bunch of wires we're going to be sorting out. So let's get started with that. Wanted to show you, here's the other one that I took out. And I'm just going to cut this one about that length. That'll give you plenty of extra wire. You don't really need any, but you can see this one really got boogered up. Alright, so I'm going to pull this out and cut it right about there, and we can splice in. Alright, this right side, I'm thinking going at it with a slightly different approach here, since it is so darn tight under here. I'm trying to show you here. Here's the loom and the, I don't know if you can even see it. It's so freaking tight. You can't even see it. There it is. That's the loom with the wires, the two wires going through it. And the fuel tank is just practically right up on top of it. You can't even see. So I'm not going to pull this down through. I'll never get it back up through. I'm going to try to do everything up top here and then just pull extra wire up top here and do everything up here. Fish the extra wire that I'm going to use to pick up the tail light. I'll fish that down through and do that splice underneath. What I'm going to do is I'm going to take the tail light out, see if I can gain a little bit more access. So, be right back. Okay, got the two bolts out for that. Had to use a flat blade screwdriver to pry this out, but it wasn't too bad. Not sure what holds that on, but it really wouldn't help us anyways if we would take that off. It's just a through hole through there, so probably just gonna leave that on. Two bolts probably underneath. That you wouldn't be able to get at anyways because of the fuel tank. It's nice that it's a big tank, but it's not nice to work on. So, alright, so this is the tail light. I'll probably just disconnect this so I don't break the lens. And pick up the hot line for the tail light, splice into that, and then we can hook up We don't have to use the ground wire because it grounds through the frame, just like on the other one. The other side. Factory uses a ground wire and a hot wire, but the replacement here again, I'll show this, the V313 AA, or else Amazon. So we're going to hook it up with the ground through the stud, that's through the mounting stud. Red wire is going to be the turn function, black wire is going to be the park function. So we'll hook the black wire from here again to the hot wire coming into the tail light, and the red wire for the turn function we will hook into the, I believe it's the red wire here, and pretty much just like last time. So I'll get some work done here and we'll be back. Alright, so using my voltmeter again, set to 20 volts DC, and hooking the black wire to the ground. I did confirm again that the red wire here is the factory turn signal. So we're going to just splice right in here to the red wire on the new turn signal. This black wire is ground, but what we're going to do is we're going to use this wire. Instead of fishing another wire, we're going to use this to connect into the I guess the driving light, parking light, and that'll become the hot parking light. And we're going to clip that down here below and tape off the factory ground wire. And then down below here, I was able to confirm that the white wire going into the bulb, the white wire is the hot wire, which then crosses into a, looks like to be gray, like a brownish gray wire, and the black wire to the light bulb is ground, so we're not going to do anything there. So this is where we're going to splice in for the parking light. Alright, let's get splicing. Okay, so I'm going to be replacing this bulb pretty much right after I hook it up with an LED, but I don't know if anybody else has had problems getting these caps off. I find it easiest. They give you all these notches along the sides, but they're so big, it's almost better to pry it right under here. I just use 2 butter knives or backs of spoons or something. Get in there, and you almost need 2 of them. One to get one started and then another one. And then once you get 2 spots started, pops right off. So, and the last thing you want to do is bust it up. Brand new one. So, little trick there. Next thing is I took the hardware off, get it ready to splice. I'm just going to slide everything on the factory wires here, but you got to make sure you put it on the right way, because once everything is soldered or crimped together, you cannot put it together so easily. So put the nut on, the lock washer, and then the regular washer, and then you won't forget to do that. Do that as soon as you take it off of the light, so you don't forget to put it on, because once you have everything soldered up and you try to put it through the hole, well, that's the other thing. We need to get this down through the hole, the bracket, and then I guess we could actually fasten it in there if we have enough wire, but I might just let it go the way it is, and we'll see. So keep on getting everything here ready to splice. Alright. Alrighty, so we got the black factory wire. That's going to become the taillight wire, hooked up to the black wire of the new light taillight. The red wire hooked up, and that's going to be the turn signal wire. Slid some of this shrink wrap tubing, heat shrink tubing that we can slide over the splices in, clean that up nice. And I actually did bolt this in just hand tight, just pretty much makes it foolproof that it'll work after everything's soldered up, so you don't forget them. Big pain in the ass if you forget them. Alright, so I showed you in the other side the other way front these on or splice them. Some of these other fasteners or splicing wires, I prefer not to use them. I'm going to solder them and be done with it. Alright, so let's get that done. Okay, got those two soldered up. Those babies are never going to come apart like factory. Alright, we'll just cover them up and then heat shrink the cover, and then that'll be done. What I did while I was waiting for the soldering iron to warm up, I went ahead and trimmed cut the factory wire, which used to be the ground wire. See that there? Cut that pretty short to the loom, factory loom. That way it gives me plenty of wire here. This is the wire that heads up to the top here. It's gonna go to this one here. It goes to the tail light. So that's going to go and get spliced onto this wire here that I went ahead and cut, and just gotta remove the insulation with wire and wrap that around there and get that soldered. So we'll go ahead and do that, and I'll show you what it looks like when we're done. Okay, there you go. Got this all spliced up together, soldered up. Should be good forever. Tail light should still work. And I just need to clean everything up, tape it, and shrink it, heat shrink, and put it back together. The other thing I did, I tested it, and it wasn't working at first. Gotta make sure, since we're going through the bracket now, I gotta kind of scratch that up with the bolt, make sure it's good tight fitting. It's just hand tight now, so it wasn't tight enough, and I wasn't getting a good ground through here, and it wasn't working. I was like, oh man, what happened? So just snug this up, scratch the paint up a little bit, and was able to test it out, make sure everything was gonna work. So get everything tidied up here and see what she looks like. Okay, so we applied some heat to this heat shrink tubing wrap, wire wrap. Doesn't take much. A little heat from a cigarette lighter or butane lighter. I use a torch, a little overkill, but it works. And had to use tape here since these were not spliced. I didn't cut them. They were spliced in line. Just taped them up nice and clean, and just taped off that other wire. It's ground from factory, so it really won't hurt anything if it did touch anything, but it's kind of a visual reminder that, hey, it was intentionally cut, not just a wire that's loose, didn't break. So I was able to actually pull it out from behind here and work out here rather than underneath, which is a pain in the butt. So just tuck everything back in and test her out. Alright, got everything wrapped up all nice and clean. Just gotta snug this up. And I did find my 3/4 inch open end wrench. Go figure. And let's see. That's for the taillight. Everything's cleaned up. All nice and cleaned up in there. Using the factory harness here. Keep the wires from rubbing and bouncing around. There you can see. Alright, so let's grab the tail end here. I'll probably switch these out eventually to LEDs. We'll see. Alright, so they're both on there with the tail lights. Now this one on the right side is still incandescent, and that's the LED one. As you can see, it's a lot brighter. A lot brighter. So, hazards on here. Definitely see the difference in the response time. LED's instant. The other one has kind of a slow flash, as everybody knows. We'll see what happens when I switch out the LED bulbs. Might have to get a different relay. So that's what they say. We'll see. Okay, so again, here's the package. The LED lights came in from iBright Star Newest 9-3. Amber yellow. Again, Amazon. Where else? That's where you get everything, right? So, put this in and check it out. Alright, so there's the two LED flashers on. One on the right doesn't even have the lens on it. Looks pretty good. And then there's with the parking lights on, tail lights are on, flashes are on. Doesn't seem to be blinking faster, so I might not need the other relay. It's always good. Okay, so here's where I think a different relay might be needed if this bothers you. I don't think it bothers me. I actually like it. It blinks a little faster when you're just using the turn signals. I don't think it's ridiculously fast. I think it's fine. And here's the hazards. A little slower. Then if you use turn signals, it's a little faster. So I think I like it. I'm gonna use it the way it is. I think the LEDs are the way to go. So that just wraps it up, I guess, for installing the new tail lights, turn signal, stalk lights. Apologize for the crappy video and some of the under fender shots. It's kind of hard to get close-ups and actually be able to show you, but I guess if you have any questions, feel free to send me a question, subscribe, and don't forget that like button too. Alright, thanks again.